morning. Welcome to our Thursday morning HIIT workout. I'm Dave. Today we're going to be doing an AMRAP, or as many rounds as possible, workout. For equipment, you'll need a chair for the first round, but definitely some resistance for the second round. So the format is we have two groups, 5 exercises, 1 round per group, and that round lasts 8 minutes. You can rest when you need, and the goal is just to get as many rounds done as possible in those 8 minutes. And this is beginner to advanced because you can really take your time on this. You could, if you're beginner, maybe you only get through 3 rounds in that 8 minutes. If you're advanced, maybe you're getting through, 10 rounds. Who knows what it is and what it looks like for you. So make this workout your own. We're going to start with some arm swings, palms up, cross the body, palms down, and we alternate which arm is on top. Doing something a little different with today's workout, and that is it's built so that we're going to work for both groups really. We're going to work a smaller group of muscles, and then we're going to work a larger group of muscles of the same, that use that same small muscle group. And you'll see what I mean in the workout. We'll go into our hip hinge, forward fold, come down. As I stand up, pulling back on those left fingers, arms overhead, hips to the right, lean to the left. Hips to the left, lean to the right. And the last exercise of the group will sort of be a full body cardio using all of the muscles that we used. So it should be a little bit challenging in that regard. I'm not wearing shoes today. You might want to wear shoes today for some of the exercises. There you go. Pushing the fingers down this time. And one more. We can push the fingers down on the right side. Just like so. Arms overhead. So my remote still isn't working. It's not very compatible with this new device, so I'll be walking up to the screen a little bit more. Clock is still working though. We're going to go into some side leans. So with that in mind, I won't be able to count how many rounds I get on screen here, but you don't need to follow along with me in the workout. I'll probably start the clock and go through the exercises just for time's sake. Alright, we're going to do some dynamic pigeons on the ground, but I'll show you the modification first if you are a beginner joining us. So you're just going to sit on a chair, cross your left leg over, lean forward, and switch, alternating that way. If you're intermediate to advanced, we're going to go into a high plank position. And we're just going to alternate that pigeon pose. So I cross my leg in front of me, I touch that back knee down, and then I can switch sides. And if you want to add a little bit more to this, what you can do is you can cross that leg, drop down to your forearms, come back up, and then switch sides. We'll do one more per side here. Okay, I think it's time to turn on the air conditioning, and then we will get started. So this is what round 1 looks like. If you know what these exercises are, you can go ahead and get started. I'm going to start the clock, and we're just going to go right through them. Just got to make sure the clock is visible good. I'm going to check it on around 2, okay. Alright, we'll get started in 3, 2, and 1. sure everything's running there. Okay, so our triple bear, we're down on the ground, quadruped position. Just get the knees up off the ground, and then you can hop or step to the right, and then back to the left, and that's 1, 2, and 3. We do 8 step-ups, that's 4 per side. Stepping up, opposite arm, opposite legs moving. I like to lead all one side and then switch, because then it's very smooth, and I only have this awkward transition once. Nice and tall. I'll show you modifications pretty much for everything throughout the rounds. 10 dips. Elbows pointed behind, like you're squeezing the beach ball behind you. Move through your range of motion. The closer your feet are, the more the easier this is. And we have 5 push-ups and 3 burpees. I'll show you modifications for everything next round for sure. Okay, and that's what a round looks like. So you can keep going with that. For our triple bear, what we'll be doing instead for a modification to make things a little easier is a squat and a lateral step. So what you're going to do is you're going to squat, lateral step, that's 1, 2, and 3. For our step ups, instead of going on the chair, what we can do is we can just go with our high knees. And I'd count that as 2, 3, 4, 5. Still getting the arms moving. 7, and 8. For our dips instead, you can always use a higher surface, but if you have, and a higher surface will make things easier. If you have, let's say, equipment, what you could do, like dumbbells, is you can do this with the band as well, is you can do these tricep kickbacks, where the elbows are still pinned to my side. You don't need a heavy weight for this. Still squeezing that beach ball, but this time it's through your body. And then full range of motion on this, so I get full extension and then come back. For our push-ups, we can do any sort of number of modifications on our push-up. We can go from the incline for our burpees. I'm sure you've seen me do this one before, but what we can do instead is we can do our hip, or our ceiling, hip, knees, ankles, ceiling, and I would double this up. So instead of 3, we'll do 6. And chest, keep that as lifted as possible the whole time. And I hinge from the hips, right? To do this, I push my hips back, I touch my knees, keeping my chest lifted, ankles, ceiling. And keep your weight in your whole foot so you don't topple like me there. I think I got one more. Okay. So we'll go back into this. I'll show you a harder version of the triple bear. I don't like to do with not wearing shoes, but I'll show you anyways. So instead of stepping, what we can do is we can hop instead. So we hop to the side. There's 1, 2, and 3. A lot quicker. you want to make your step ups harder too, you could be holding some weight at your sides. If you need to make these easier, you could always, do the high knees, but you could also use a lower platform. Another tricep exercise you could do is you could do like a tricep extension overhead. So what I do is I get the dumbbells together, elbows pointed forward the whole time, and arms in line with my ears. And I extend overhead that way, so some people don't like sort of that tricep kickback. And you can do this with one dumbbell as well. A little harder to do with a band. And keep those elbows pointed forward and really squeeze them. Just like so. 5 push-ups and 3 burpees. And then for our other modification for our push-ups, we can be from the knees. But I keep that nice straight line the whole time. And 3 burpees. The last modification I'll show you for the burpee is, we take the impact out, so I reach up, I come down, step out, I plank, step in, stand up. That's one. So we'll just get through as many as we can here real quick. The other modification you can do for your step ups is you can always turn them into a lunge as well. It's the exact same muscles. So if you find yourself as an intermediate or advanced, you don't have access to that chair, you could always do the lunges instead. And we're not going to get to the dips, that's okay. We're only 8-minute rounds. And I know I showed mostly modifications, but this workout's for you guys. So, if you want to go back and try to do as many as you can with the modification that you liked, that's a good idea. Okay, so round 2. We are going to need some equipment. As you can see, a little bit more reps in this one. I think I got about 3.5 rounds last time. Hopefully, you might have been able to get a little bit more unless you were following along. Then, great work. So I'm just going to start the clock. Actually, we have the time to just do a quick demonstration. I just want to demonstrate the bent over row. So with this, it's really important that we get our form right. This is really, and the deadlift I'll demonstrate. I'll demonstrate the deadlift first because it sort of leads into the bent over row. Hips back, all right? That's your first movement. Hips back, chest stays lifted. Hip back, chest stays lifted. Arms are straight so I don't bend my arms. And then I can slightly bend my knees to lower the weight, and I stand back up. But the main movement of the deadlift is this. It doesn't look too right, but that hinge is what allows us to make that vertical level change. Now for the bent over row, we use that same hinge, but we stop at the knees, and then we're just pulling our arms back, focusing on pulling the elbows back, squeezing the shoulder blades at the top. Alright? So I'll start the clock and we'll just move through everything else. You can use a band, you can use cans, you can use pillow, you can use whatever, water you got lying around is you got a couple lazy dogs that you can pick up, use them. But some resistance probably is necessary for this round. Alright, so we'll get going in 3, 2, and 1. The bicep curl, I'm just going to start with the weights because they're here. If you have multiple sets of weights, use the lighter ones for the bicep. So my elbows are pinned aside just like our tricep exercises. And I bring the weight all the way up to where I'm not resting at the top, and all the way down to where I'm not resting at the bottom. What I mean by that is, I'll show you on the number 8 here, is this is resting at the top, right? I could lift here pretty well all day. And this is resting at the bottom, I could lift here definitely all day. The idea, if we stop here instead of here, we stop here instead of there, and we stop here instead of here, is we keep tension on the whole time, right? That means the muscles are working the whole time. So bent over rows, I would use a slightly heavier weight generally, and then we just get into our form, hinge from the hips, chest stays lifted, pull the elbows past the body, and you can see here how using the arms beforehand really tires out using those back muscles quickly. And that's a little bit more of an advanced exercise technique, is to train the small muscle before the big muscle. Usually it's the other way around. But that doesn't mean beginners can't do it. So single leg glute bridge, we're going to do one per side. I'll show you that way. So feet close to the bum, leg is straight parallel with the other leg, and then we just lift up. And for half a second, touch down. Okay, then we have our 10 deadlifts. And again, I would use a heavier weight for this as well, heavier than your bicep curl. If you have it, you could probably even go heavier than your bent over row. Hinge from the hip, chest stays lifted, slight bend at the knees to get you that extra little bit of range of motion. Shoulders back. Nice straight lines the whole time. And you might not be, I'm certainly not perfect at these, but they look pretty dang good. And you might not be looking as, form perfect as I am there. But that's okay, it'll come in time. Just don't use too heavy weight. And then our inchworm, we crawl down, we crawl out, feet towards the hand, stand up. And I'm going to have to pick up the pace if I want to do more than 2 rounds here. So I'm going to be using the resistance band on everything next round just to show you. And then maybe I can get in around if you didn't have any weight, even if you didn't have like water bottles or anything. Okay, so I'll use the resistance band. Again, with this, rest when you need to. I'm not working too hard because I'm doing a lot of explaining, taking things slow. Resistance band, you could be using the ones with the handles. I have a loop here. With the loop, honestly, this will probably turn into a hammer curl, which means my thumbs are pointed up the whole time. But same principle, elbows pinned at the side, standing nice and tall, keeping resistance the whole time. And the nice thing is you can just turn to your side, hinge from the hips, grab nice and low on this band so you can get that tension. Chest stays lifted, elbows behind the body. Now my tempo is rather, relatively slow to controlled. The other modification you can do instead of the single leg is you could be doing 2 legs, just do all 16. Hips up and down. Now my tempo for this is a little quicker, but choose the tempo that you want for this. Like, it is AMRAP, so the idea is to get as many as you can. But you have to be able to do that safely. And one more for 16, good. And then right into our deadlift. That can also be done with a band. Right, so instead, I just grab nice and low on that band, get into that starting position. And you can feel it's not too much resistance with a band, like for the deadlift, it's relatively easy, so maybe that's a good place for you to start if you're getting used to using weight. Alright, then our inchworms. You can modify these the same way as the burpees, but I certainly find these a lot easier than burpees or walkouts. Alright, so if you don't have weight, the bicep curl is fairly difficult to do, but I'll show you some anyways. What I would do is I would go arms at shoulder height and bring my hands towards my shoulders without my elbows moving. That's going to be a lot of shoulders, but your arms have weight and you still have to use your biceps to bring this back. Instead of the bench over row, what I would do is a hinged T or reverse delt fly. So I'm just squeezing my shoulder blades behind my body. Glute bridge stays the same. And I'll go past the clock here just so I can demonstrate the deadlift. Oh, did a few extra on that side, that's okay. Okay, and I'll just demonstrate what you can do for the deadlift. So, you could certainly practice your form, you know, even if you didn't have any like water bottles around the house. That's sort of what I mean with this round. You certainly practice your form by crawling your hands in front of your body and then standing all the way up, or you can do a single leg deadlift, which is a little bit harder, right? Just make sure your chest stays lifted and that foot stays high. But that is it for the AMRAP portion. So we'll go into our stretches. I'm just going to start from the chair because it's here. We'll do our seated. Actually, no, I'm going to show you figure 4 because on Tuesday I'm going to show you how to do it with a band. So on the ground, we're going to cross our left leg over our right. Left hand through the hole, right hand on the outside. Pull that right knee towards your chest. And head stays on the ground for this. Don't crane to see what you're doing. And we'll switch sides. So, I mentioned this in the beginner workout, but next week I'm going to try to pre-record these instead of going live at 7. But as always, if you have questions, comments, or concerns about that, feel free to comment. So we're just going to do a butterfly stretch. Feet together, sort of the bottom of the feet together, and then just bring them close towards your groin, slightly forward. Every time I see myself on camera, I'm reminded how much I need a haircut. You know me, when I first started this job, I imagine you couldn't ever imagine me saying that with the hair I had. Alright, we're going to go feet in front of us, straight, toes point towards the shin, and then we're just going to hinge slightly forward. It's not so much a modified hurdlers where you're like really leaning into it, just hinging really. Okay, we'll go into our child's pose here. So from a kneeling position, you can open up the knees a little bit, push the hips back, hands forward, elbows on the ground, and then just really sink into that. Take some time to relax. And then we'll go into our cat-to-cow. Quadruped position, I arch the spine up, tuck the chin in, and then I bring my chin to neutral, head to neutral, and spine to neutral. You know, this is a really great stretch for people that look down at their phone a lot, because you're moving the spine all the way from the C-spine all the way down to, you know, the lower lumbar spine. Why it's important for people to use their phone a lot is because their head is tilted constantly in one position, and this forces them to move it around. Okay, and then we'll just do our half kneel hip flexor. So from a kneeling position, I bring my right leg a little bit forward. Left arm is going to go up, and then I'm going to push my hips forward, feeling a stretch of my hip flexors all the way down the side of my body. The hip flexors don't run all the way down the side of the body. What I meant is I feel it all on the side of my body. Just to clarify, the main part where you should be feeling the stretch is your hip flexors, which is right here. But by putting this arm up, you can also feel that stretch in your lats. Okay, we'll finish with our door frame stretch. So if you don't have a door frame, remember we're doing the handcuff stretch. Shoulders back and down. Door frame is just better in my opinion. Arm is straight, palm is up as much as you can. That way you stretch the bicep out a little bit too. And then we just turn and feel that stretch in the chest and in the shoulders. We turn through the upper torso. And we'll switch sides. Alright, and I believe that is good enough to call it a day, call it a workout, maybe not call it a day at 8 a.m. in the morning. I hope you guys enjoyed that workout. Like I said, I'm going to try pre-recording the ones for next week. If you have a problem with that, if you like them live, just let me know. But this way they'll be available a little bit earlier for people. And you know, they're available all day on YouTube. So again, any questions, comments, or concerns, leave them in the comments, send me a message. I hope you guys have a great day. If I don't see you or don't talk to you, I hope you have a great long weekend as well. Until next time.